Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Entrepreneurs around the world, welcome back to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am, of course, Phil Better, the podcast mogul. And this episode is specifically for you accountants looking to jump into the entrepreneurial space. So let's get ready to embark on a journey of rejuvenation and resiliency with our next guest, who will transform your approach to health and leadership. Because our guest is a medical herbalist and mindset coach hailing from the serene landscapes of Carterton, New Zealand. I probably mispronounced that, and she'll correct me later. But they're not just another wellness expert. They are the visionary behind the Project Joyful podcast, dedicated to helping individuals reclaim their energy and rediscover their joy in their lives. In a world where exhaustion, overwhelm are all too common, our guests specialize in supporting high achievers who find themselves drained and detached. Through a unique blend of plant medicine and neuroscience-informed coaching, she guides her clients towards replenishing their energy reserves and fostering a sense of spaciousness in their life. But the impact extends far beyond personal wellness. As the creator of the Corporate Sage Effect program, she empowers exhausted managers to become highly conscious leaders, blending herbal medicine, neuroscience, and high-performing coaching to cultivate thriving team-based environments. And if that wasn't impressive enough, our guest shares her expertise through bespoke coaching experiences, her captivating podcast, and even online herb blending courses where participants learn to create their own tasty herbal teas. So whether you're seeking to revolutionize your energy, cultivate a mindful leadership, or simply savor the healing power of herbs, our guest is the guide you've been searching for. So please welcome our guest, the herbalist manifester herself, Tracy Tutty. Tracy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Phil. Wow, what an introduction. Oh, we're going to have fun today.
Oh, we are definitely, and I say this all the time, but my audience is probably annoyed by it, but I was a fan of hype men in the 90s for rap stars. So my goal is always to be the hype person for my guests, because you are the star of the episode. So Tracy, thank you again for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
All right, so we're going to get right to the hard-hitting question. The first question, as always, is why did you become an entrepreneur? What was it, Tracy?
It's such a great question. And for a long time, that word entrepreneur had a lot of resistance for me. I never meant to be an entrepreneur. I never meant to be a business owner. But I had a period in my life where I went through a period of unwellness. And the doctor said to me, well, you're just going to have to live with it. And I thought, oh, no, I can't live with it. I need to find out how to solve the problem. And so I ended up training as a medical herbalist after going to a herbalist and having my IBS issues resolved. And unfortunately, when you're a herbalist, there aren't too many jobs out there. So if you're really passionate about helping people, and especially people who have been told they just have to live with it, entrepreneurship is the path. So it was accidental.
So it was a case of, oh, you have to live with it, to, no, I don't want to live with it. I'm going to figure stuff out. And you did it yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
How did the executive coaching come into it? Like, being an herbalist is one thing, making your teas, being the tea queen, and everybody's like, you want some good tea, go see the witch. I mean, the tea or the herbalist, because technically tea is let's be honest, it's a potion.
Yeah, it is.
Witches make potions these days, but apparently now herbalists make teas. So I don't know. I still think you may be a witch, but how did you're gonna own it? How did you become how did executive coaching come in? Like, where did that come into your world?
I live in New Zealand. For a long time, I lived in the UK. For 20 years, I lived in the UK. And while I was there, I was a contract accountant. And so what would happen is, if you're an accountant, essentially, if you want to get ahead in your career, the way to do it is to manage people. So, and it's a really tough call, because accountants aren't taught to manage people. They're taught to manage numbers, right? And so what happened was I got my first gig. I was managing a team. And that was okay. I thought, oh no, that's all right. When I look back, it probably wasn't quite so good for the team as it was for me. As I was learning that people are actually different to numbers. But what happened was I know, right? Step by step, I started managing teams that were having more and more challenges. So I would, because I was on contract, I was a consultant, I would go into a team that was dysfunctional. No one told me it was dysfunctional. They were like, when you hear those interviews and they're like, oh, we move at a fast pace, or, oh, we've got a lot going on. It's code, people. It's code for there's some stuff that needs to be sorted out, right? So I'd go into this team and it would be broken. And so I was like, well, I need some tools to help me with this because I've got no idea how to fix this. And so I trained as a coach. And so what would happen is I became known as the person who would go into these finance teams and fix these broken finance teams. I did it one contract, another contract, and then that became my brand, if you like. And so the more I did that, the more sort of tools I developed, and the more I became interested in this personal development thing as well. And there's a nice crossover as well, right? Because a lot of what's going on in our health, we can bring all of our resources to the fore. So you can bring your mind to the fore. You can use neuroscience as well as herbal medicine, as well as mind-based practices. So it all kind of came together.
I love that. I love how everything just melded together to bring everything together. To be the person you are today, the executive herbalist, which I'm sorry, I apologize. It's unfair of me to say that. But you're mixing herbs together. How can we not assume or make the jump? But anyways, with doing both, you're helping people with the teas, calming themselves, learning how to make teas that are beneficial to them using the proper herbs and that. Do you find it one is more of a quote unquote hobby, if you will, or like a side hustle to the other? And which one is which, or do they switch back and forth?
They tend to go through phases. I mean, it's such a great question. I think for a long time, I stayed with doing the consulting Monday to Friday because, well, it paid well. It gave me credibility. It was a professional thing. And then I had an IBS clinic on the side. So on a Saturday, I'd have an IBS clinic. It was always a full clinic because I think it's 1 in 4 people have IBS. Mm-hmm. Most of those people are told that they just have to live with it. And so I always had the herbal medicine on the side. That said, whenever I was in a consulting gig, I couldn't help but talk about herbal medicine. So it was always in my life. I think herbal medicine was a side gig for a long time, but not because it was meant to be a side gig. It was more about my programming as a former employee, and that resistance and hesitancy to being like, if I'm like full-time in my business, then I'm full-time in my business. So for a long time, the herbal medicine was a side hustle. Now it's much more integrated.
I like that. I like how it integrated, became one in helping you. And now you're melding the two pieces of yourself. You're the old corporate side, the employee side with the entrepreneur side. Now it's come to one, to you're cracking along and destroying stuff. When you get the results you do from your clients and they realize how much like herbalism helps, some of them must be coming from like a conservative mindset where like, oh no, that's all hooly magical stuff. It won't work. And when they start doing the herbalism, you're like, yeah, just enjoy the tea. It's just tea. It's not a magic potion because I'm not a witch. Do you find that their mindset switches like almost like, oh my God, they're being unbrainwashed, if you will?
Yeah, there is a shift that happens. And to be fair, herbal medicine, it's not a path for everyone, right? Mm-hmm. So I do see people, and we never talk about herbal medicine. And also it's about what works as well. So for example, when I broke my arm, I didn't wrap some comfrey leaves around it. I went to the hospital. I had the x-ray. I put my arm in the cast and all of that good stuff. But the difference was that alongside that healing in the cast, I was taking herbs that were helping to improve my bone density. They were helping my body to lay down calcium with those osteoblasts and osteoclasts. And, I was working with my body to promote healing. So herbal medicine isn't a path that everyone takes, and there are times when it's more important to go to the hospital or go to the doctor to get the diagnosis. So what happens is it comes out in the conversation. So I work with drained managers, so they're exhausted. And there's a lot we can do in the herbal world to help with exhaustion, to step them back from burnout. And it's a combination, because it's about, okay, let's take a look at what's happening in your day and invite you to look at how you might create more space in your day or approach things a little bit differently. Or let's talk about that bad behavior in your team, and let's just be compassionate with ourselves and understand that the reason why you're not addressing that poor behavior is because you're exhausted. And then now that we're having an honest conversation about that, let's have a look at some protocols that we can use to improve the energy in your body. And in herbal medicine, we have a wide range of herbs that do that. And they're not just stimulating herbs like when you have a coffee. So they're a class of herbs called adaptogens, and they help your body to naturally build up your reserves of energy. So what happens is we'll have a conversation. First of all, we're doing a lot of that executive leadership stuff, addressing what's going on in the team, addressing what's going on in your day, addressing what's going on at home. And then there'll come a time when they're like, well, you know what? I really feel like I don't need 3 Red Bulls and 4 coffees just to get me through the
day. That's a very deadly addiction to have.
Yes, it's quite a concoction. But the thing is, like, if you're an executive, you're going into these meetings and everyone's clutching a coffee cup. And so you're kind of like, well, what am I going to do? So herbal medicine is a nice little space for that, because you still look like you're having your coffee, but you're actually having something that's going to help you, to help you to focus or to help to improve your energy. So it's something that happens along the way. And then what happens is they're like, do you know what? I actually slept much better tonight. Well, that's because you didn't have all those Red Bulls in that coffee. And so it kind of happens as a result of the evidence that they start to see in their lives as a result of doing something like that consistently.
Oh, and I love how you hit at the final point there, consistency, because we know as entrepreneurs, we are what we do consistently, and the success comes from that. And it's not just...
Oh, that's so key, isn't it?
And it's not just overnight luck that we see, so that some people like to promote. You actually have to do work. Where do you see yourself going in the next 5 years? If I snap my finger, where's Tracy? Is your business in the next 5 years?
So for me, what gets me up in the morning, what gets me excited is this idea about healing workplaces. I think we spend too much time at work to be in an environment that's making us feel unwell. But there's always something we can do. It's not about the environment. It's about how we're interacting with the environment. So in 5 years' time, what I'm seeing is more programs, more impact, more connection with managers, helping managers to heal themselves through the Revitalize coaching program, and then helping them so that they can help their teams and heal their workplaces. I want more of that. I want people to go to work because they love what they do and they feel supported as they do it. It's a lot like entrepreneurship, isn't it, really? Imagine that. Love what I do, tick. Supported as I do it? Sometimes.
Question mark. Do I have the freedom that I want? That's very key in entrepreneurship and what we wish for our jobs. I want to touch on the Corporate Sage Effect program, because we touched about how you help those very highly conscious, those exhausted managers become those highly conscious leaders. And we talked about what they do and how they need to focus in on themselves, heal what they're doing, get that energy back to hit those points that they're doing that cause the issues. But what strategies would you do you emphasize they take to help them both personally and professionally for their team?
So we have 3 pillars that we work with, which is clear, curate, and elevate. So when you're looking at it, the first thing that I always invite people to do is clear some space for change, because change happens at the speed of safety, as my mentor Tracy Tutty says. And what we want to be doing is we want to be looking at our day and we want to be creating space for active recovery. We want to be creating space for critical thinking. We want to be putting in those time slots for those administrative tasks, the tasks that aren't that taxing, and those times when our circadian rhythm is naturally lower, so that we're maximizing the time when our circadian rhythm is in that peak time. We're able to be focused so that we're doing the things that generate the results during that time. Our day is curated so that we're working alongside the natural rhythms of our body. And then in terms of curation, well, it's about, like when you get to the end of your life and you look back on your life, what is it that says, now that was a life well lived? It's about experiences. It's not about the money in the bank. It's not about the things that you did. It's about the experiences that those things that you did allowed you to enjoy, or the sensations that it created in your body. So a lot of what we're doing in curation is looking at, well, how do I build my personal brand? What do I want to be known for? What is my key area of focus with my team right now? How am I showing my team where we're going? How am I holding that standard? So it's about building that personal brand. It's about curating those personal experiences. Because the other thing is, like, you spend all that time at work, so you might as well be feeling good about it and having good emotions in it. Rather than that low level hum of agitation as you rush from meeting to meeting to meeting. And so a lot of that is about curation. And then in terms of elevation, that's the leader's toolkit. So that's, what are the tools that I need to manage my team well? And, oh, hey, guess what? They're the same tools that I use to manage me well. Because the thing is, everyone's watching, right? Whether we're having a good day or a bad day, people are noticing how we are being in that moment as well.
Very true. Very true. How was it? Now, you have a team around you, obviously, virtual assistants and full-time employees. When did you feel that it was time to invest in that, time to invest in employees?
If I'm completely honest, I left it longer than I could have. It was something that I would have benefited from investing in earlier. And the thing for me was I have a podcast editor, virtual assistant, I have a marketing coach. And what happened was I was like doing all the things, and I was worn out and I was starting to fall out of love with it. And at the same time, I'm talking to managers about work-life balance. The two weren't congruent. And I got to a point where I was like, I've got to get this stuff out for my podcast, because podcasts are a lot of work, right? People don't realize that. You just go on there and, you talk about stuff and magic, it just happens. I wish. So I was rushing from thing to thing, and I thought, I need help. And then you have that struggle, don't you, where you're like, oh, can I afford that? Is that something that I can like? And for me, it was holding that responsibility as well. It's like, well, if I bring these people into my team, then, that's a long-term commitment. I can afford it today. Can I afford that in a year's time? And then it was like all that, backwards and forwards. And then in the end of it, I was like, do you know what? If my business was 3 times more than it is today, what would my life be like? And basically the wheels would have been falling off, right? And I was like, so why aren't I acting as if my business is 3 times more than it is today, so that I've got the space to create a business that's 3 times more than it is today? And that was the turning point for me. That was like, all right, I just got to find a way to hold this responsibility. And for me, it was about holding the responsibility rather than actually writing the check.
Ooh, interesting. Second time I heard the responsibility come.
Oh, really? Oh, were we on a responsibility day?
Yes, it looks like today is the response. We have to be responsible today. That's how the universe is responding to me. Be more responsible, Phil.
But not in a grown-up, strict way. Just hold that energy.
Yeah.
Hold the responsibility of that energy.
It's very good. Were you worried when you, like, what was going through your mind? Because, like, I haven't hired yet. And I'm going to be completely honest. I think I'm at that point where I need to hire, at least
Mm,
to handle some of the administration tasks on my end.
yeah.
And like I have that worry of like the response, like you said, the responsibility. And like that year from now being able to afford it, but at the same time a year from now my business can be 10x because I have that
Mm,
freedom.
yeah.
So when you have a manager who realizes like, hey, I need to do this, but also has that fear to do the investing into that step,
Mm.
how do you walk them through it? Like how does it first of all, does it happen often? And follow up, how do you walk them through that? How do you get them into the mindsets to take?
Mm. I think when I'm coaching with business owners, I'm going to be bold, and I was bringing on people. I was terrified. Of course I was. You know, it's a big
Mhm.
responsibility. It's a big commitment. And it's calling on me to let go of some stuff as well, right? Um, and so for me, it's about creating safety in my body first, because my body leads and then my mind follows. So if I feel safe in my body, what happens is I'm not in generating those feelings of agitation and anxiety and worry. So just because I'm not conscious of what I'm worrying about doesn't mean I'm not worrying about it and using energy worrying about it. So the first thing for me is just to create that safety in my body through breath work or walking around or dancing or singing or doing mental rehearsals. So visualizing myself as that manager that has that staff and really feeling it. So it's not enough just to visualize on its own. You've got to feel it because your body understands the language of emotion. So feeling into it, hearing what I'm saying, seeing what I'm doing, seeing the impact that I can have when I'm supported by a team. And then by creating safety in my body, then the next thing is to get the mind on board. So have a plan. Okay, so what are the things that I need someone to pick up? Is there a common pattern between it? Is it something that one person can pick up? Is it something that's a couple of people can pick up? And then just start small. Bring someone in, commit to the way that I did it is I committed to 5 hours a month to start with. And then your body's like, actually, that felt quite good. That 5 hours that like helped me do these other things and this over here. And look, I've got this new client now because I was able to do those other things. And then build up gradually from that, step by step. But do
Mhm.
it. I think too many of us wait too long.
I like that. I like that. It's great advice. Again, one of the reasons I started this podcast is still great advice from amazing entrepreneurs who are further along in the business than I am, but also it's helping the audience know that they should invest not only in themselves, but also in staff to help them go to the next level. And speaking of investing in oneself, it's pivotal for personal growth, obviously, and success. How do you encourage your clients to prioritize that self-investment? And how do you do it as well?
Do you mean self-investment in terms of time or?
Well, to improve yourself, become a better
Mm,
version of yourself, do you spend some time investing in learning more about the herbs that are coming out? Look, I don't have any idea about herbs. I know business, so and podcasting really. So, but like, how do you prioritize your self investment? Like, do you set that
mm.
time blocks? How do you suggest your clients do it? Do you have different methods for different clients? Like, how do you prioritize that self investment?
So the way that I do it for me is I spend a lot of time in self-reflection. It's something that I like to start my day with. I'm naturally a reflective person anyway. And so what will happen is I will do a check-in on my week. What did I say I would do that I didn't do? And what was the reason behind not doing it? Was it that I don't have the skills for it? Was it I was afraid? Was there some resistance somewhere? Was it banging up against a limiting belief? And if something comes out of that where I'm like, I don't have the skills to crack that yet, then for me, that's a no-brainer. So for example, I've just started working with a marketing coach because my social media isn't where I would like it to be. And when I reflected on that, I'm like, okay, what's going in the way on that? Am I afraid to be visible? No, that's not it. because my face is all over Instagram. And it's like, okay, so what's missing? I'm like, there's a piece of that puzzle that I don't get yet. And so for me, it's a no-brainer. It's like, go and get someone who's an expert in it to fast track it so that you can get the results that you owe to your people to get. So for me, it's about understanding, what's missing in my life. How do I manifest that? And often it's about investing in myself. I think one of the big challenges around investing in ourselves and personal development is this idea of being worthy and feeling like, well, if I invest in myself, it's because I'm broken or I'm not enough. And if you're thinking that, if you have that proving energy, then in my opinion, the only way through that is to get some help with a coach, work through those limiting beliefs. So I think it's a very personal thing. For me, the most easily quantified is what's missing in my business. What do I need to get that to be where I want it to be? And often that's about bringing in someone who can see things that you can't see.
I like that. It's true. Because most entrepreneurs, yes, when they help their clients, they see the forest. Their client only sees the tree. But to them, it's like, oh, I can see the forest, but really, you can't see you're the tree. You're a client, someone else's client who can then lift you up to say, hey, no, here's the tree. Here's the forest. You were staring at a tree or two trees. I love that. Tracy, what do you do?
I'm a gardener.
Oh.
So I love nothing more than having my hands in the dirt and my feet on the grass. Something fills me up, when the roses bloom or when I see a beautiful lake. I will literally stop in the street and go, oh my God, that's a beautiful rose. Someone's front garden, there's roses peeping up over the top of the fence. So for me, nature is a really big thing. And I'm really fortunate in where I live. And I'm sure you experience that too, where we have the great outdoors just outside. Like I look out my back door and I can see the Tararua Ranges looming up. And so being in nature is a really big thing for me in terms of relaxing. I learned a long time ago that it's really important to deplug for at least a day a week. And so for me, my Sunday is a cup of tea and my Kindle. And there's nothing I love more than getting into a good book. And I make a point of it not being a book where I'm learning something. It's a book where it's just for fun. And I find that fills me up, and then Monday I'm recharged again. So for me, it's a good cup of tea and a book, or gardening, and just being out in nature fills me up. I also have 2 cats that keep me entertained as well.
Cats do keep you entertained, and they do love those sunny spots on a Sunday while someone's
They
speaking. Tracy, we're coming up to the end of the episode, which I hate because I'm having such a fun time with you, Tracy. Your energy is amazing. However, I would love to know, I have your 10-year-old self right beside me. She's an amazing spitfire of her personality. I would like to know, what is a single piece of advice you would love to give your 10-year-old self?
Oh, such a good question. I can see her looking up going, come on, what is it? If I had just one piece of advice, I mean, there's so much that we'd like to tell our little boys and little girls as we've gone through life, isn't there? So if it was just one piece of advice, I would say be true to yourself. Just follow your heart. Don't worry about whether you can earn a living from it. Don't worry about if it's like the best office job in the world and that way you'll get approval from your parents, hence becoming an accountant. Just do what you love. If there's a tug in your heart, do that. Because that's what life is about, right? It's like, I wonder if, give it a go.
Love it. Such great advice to the young souls inside of us all, and the ones coming down the stream in the future. Tracy, I'm going to jump off stage here. I want you to talk to my audience, to let them know where they can connect with you, how they can follow you, and maybe even hire you to help them rejuvenate their executive life. So the floor is yours.
Oh, thanks, Phil. Thank you so much. Hey, I really love talking with you guys today. If what I've talked about today is resonating with you, if you feel that little urge, check me out on Instagram at Tracy C. Tutty. Or also schedule a free 30-minute productivity strategy consultation with me, because I'd love to help you get more productive and to help you really to unblock what's going on with your teams. And also, if you want to hear more about what I talk about, check out the podcast, Project Joyful.
Excellent. Tracy, thank you again for being here. I had so much fun talking with you. You're a light in the day, and a definitely good cup of tea. Very good cup of tea.
Thanks, Phil. It's been an absolute treat, as always, talking with you.
To my audience, you know what to do. Down in the show notes below, we'll be able to connect with Tracy. I definitely will have her link to her podcast. You guys should check it out and just be blown away by the amazing work she's doing over there. And I want to thank you all for listening. And remember to always invest in yourself.